Hello everyone and welcome to another Ending Explained. I am AMHarbinger and today I will be talking through Naughty Dog's latest game, The Last of Us Part 2, summarizing the game's plot, including some lesser known details, and finally providing my own interpretation of the ending where we are left with a cryptic look at Ellie's future. This video does contain spoilers, obviously, and will have my own interpretation of certain characters. I understand this game has major polarizing criticism, my review also shows that, but I expect backlash from this video just like any other content relating to The Last of Us Part 2. So let's get to it and discuss The Last of Us Part 2. Also, if you don't mind, please leave a like and a comment as it does help me out a lot. The game opens up with Joel explaining to Tommy what happened during the end of Part 1, with Joel slaughtering the Firefly stationed at the hospital and saving Ellie. Ellie is seen very happy with her life in Jackson, and Joel decides to sing to her, something that Ellie has wanted ever since the University of Colorado, where Joel tells Ellie he wanted to be a singer. We then skip 4 years later. Ellie has changed. She is no longer the quirky, joke-loving kid, but more mature and hardened. She finally has friends, the first of which we're introduced to is Jesse, a talented leader and loyal friend. We also get a good look at Jackson, which has become a flourishing community with businesses, work in electricity, and even children. However, despite this, the infection and fear of bandits remains a real threat as the people lightly discuss their life outside the walls, including possible infected breaching their realm of safety and the complete cutdown of all trees surrounding the community so they can look out and see if anyone's going to charge their community. Dina is introduced shortly after, shown to be a former romantic partner of Jesse, but still a good friend to both Ellie and Jesse. Ellie and Dina partner up for patrol, with the two spending the night together after being snowed in. They luckily find Eugene's shelter, a friend and former Firefly who died from natural causes, complete with his own weed farm. Ellie and Dina have a romantic night before the game cuts back to Abby. We have a short time controlling Abby, showing that her and her group have interest in Jackson, but it's unclear what. One of the members, Owen, doesn't want to go through with their plan given Jackson's defenses, and Abby decides to take off on her own. After a haunted chase through the blizzard as infected runners give chase, Abby is almost killed, but thanks to Joel and Tommy, survives. Unfortunately, the infected overwhelm their hideout and the two cannot make it back to Jackson due to the storm. It is very uncharacteristic, but Joel and Tommy decide to take Abby's offer to take shelter close to their location. They follow and are attacked once inside their hideout. I don't know if Joel got soft or perhaps his way of thinking changed, but Joel from Part 1 would have never gone inside that building with strangers. I actually highlight why this entire scene makes no sense, and I will leave a link to that video in the description below. The group of strangers' intentions are made apparent when Abby shoots Joel's leg and knocks Tommy out. Abby then begins to beat Joel with a golf club before we cut to black and see that Ellie and Dina are now sharing personal stories with one another. Ellie even admits to Dina that she's immune, but Dina doesn't believe her. Jesse finds the two and tells them that Tommy and Joel never made it back and they're looking for them. Ellie tracks Joel and Tommy to the house, but Ellie is pinned the second she heads into the basement. Ellie barely sees Joel hanging on and begs Abby to stop, but ignores her, as Ellie cries for Joel and begs Abby before taking one final swing and killing Joel. The group argue whether to kill Ellie and Tommy, but decide against it. In the aftermath, we learned that Tommy took notes of their gear and names, with their patches saying Washington Liberation Front and they're stationed in Seattle. Ellie wants revenge, but Tommy wants to be smart about this. Ellie wants to leave immediately, but Tommy convinces her not to leave, as Tommy's wife will be unwilling to leave Jackson vulnerable or risking their lives. The next day, we learn that Tommy left and Maria has the town in lockdown. While Ellie mourning the death of Joel, Maria decides to let Ellie go to Seattle, as there is no way she can stop her, with Dina joining her. The two travel to Seattle, and if you read Ellie's journal, you can actually see what happened between the events of Jackson and coming to Seattle, with Ellie and Dina having survived a hunter attack and growing closer, such as feeding the wild horses and expressing how much she loves her. The two reach Seattle, and once entering the city, learn that the Washington Liberation Front overthrew the military. The military were unable to keep supplies flowing, even resorting to throwing out citizens from the quarantine zone and preventing people from entering. Things got so dire that all war broke out. The open section of the map that you explore shows remnants of the building and highway now gone due to bombing and fighting. Ellie and Dina need to find some gas to get the generator working in order to open the locked gate leading up to the Saravina Hotel, where Ellie learns codes from a document and learns that the WLF have a station there. It's also here that you get some insight to how the residents of Seattle reacted to the start of the outbreak, with a bunch of robbers trying to rob a bank during outbreak day and one of them getting trapped inside the vault. Dina also reveals she's Jewish and her sister was very religious. In one of my favorite optional scenes, Ellie can be seen playing a song to Dina inside a music store, which is surprising considering Ellie finds a near-perfect guitar inside the shop. Either way, this is one of my most favorite moments in the entire game. The chemistry between these two is absolutely brilliant. The two eventually get some gas and reach the hotel. When inside, they find infected and most of the WLF shot, with Ellie and Dina confirming that Tommy is the one who did this when Ellie realizes the torture technique used on a set of WLF members was the same technique that Joel used in part 1, and Joel even taught Ellie the technique. Ellie and Dina travel deeper into Seattle but trigger a bomb. Dina gets away, but Ellie isn't as lucky and gets captured, and unfortunately Shimmer also dies. Rest in peace, buddy. You're with Callus now. One of the captors instantly recognizes Ellie and attempts to interrogate her. His superior is given orders to execute all trespassers, but ironically, it's Abby's friend that saves Ellie's life, wanting to get information from Ellie. Dina comes in the nick of time to save Ellie, but gets hurt in the process. Ellie breaks free, saves Dina, and kills the guy.
Somebody would have heard the gunshots.
And in the process, she's able to loot his body and find the next clue to locating Joel's killers. Ellie and Dina fight their way out of the school and into the streets. Their new target is Leah, another one of Abby's friends. Ellie and Dina travel through infected, traps, and the WLF to reach the TV station to find a message written in bodies. Someone hanged all the WLF members stationed at the TV station with their stomachs sliced open. Dina and Ellie find Leah's lifeless body, including a bunch of photos of Joel's killers. She's just been carrying around every one of their photos for some reason, not really sure why. Dina and Ellie are ambushed by WLF soldiers when trying to exit the TV station. The two evade them and enter a subway station full of infected, including a new type of infected called the Shambler that shoots out toxic spores when close to a target. When reaching the end of the subway, Ellie's mask cracks and Dina believes she's infected, but this interaction is short-lived as a horde of infected charge their position. Ellie and Dina make it to an abandoned theater to rest and discuss everything. Dina is shocked that Ellie was telling the truth about being immune, but then Dina tells Ellie that she believes she may be pregnant, which would explain why she was getting sick this entire time and experiencing cramps. They have a spat and Ellie runs off to see if the area is secure. Ellie restarts the power, but can't get a radio working, so she decided to give up for the night. We get another flashback, this time of Ellie during one of her birthdays. Joel took Ellie to an old museum and the two spent the day together. This is actually one of the most beautiful moments in the entire game because it matches the tone of part 1, with Joel and Ellie bonding during mutual interest. Joel showing that he was a huge fan of Jurassic Park and talking more openly about Sarah, such as her interest in either the hero cards or Pokemon. But of course he doesn't mention Jurassic Park or Pokemon because, that would probably be IP something, probably some sort of legal issue that I'm not aware of. Joel, above and beyond with his presence, shows Ellie the space wing of the museum and even secures an old Apollo 11 tape to reenact the legendary trip to the moon. Things don't end there, with Ellie and Joel traveling to the wildlife section of the museum, where Ellie finds a dead Firefly who wrote how he did horrible things for them and their promise to restart humanity was a lie, planting the first seed of doubt in Joel's story about him saving Ellie from the Fireflies and how they had other people who were immune and were unable to replicate that immunity and create a vaccine.
Well, let's get a move on. I want to get a fire going before it gets too dark. Come on.
Ellie wakes up the next morning to find that Dina has not only repaired the radio but have been monitoring WLF chat. Thanks to Eugene for teaching her. The two overhear on the radio that the WLF found a male trespasser and they assume it's Tommy. Ellie heads out dealing with the infected and the WLF alone, while Dina remains safe inside the theater. It's here where Ellie finds a bow from a stalker named Boris, who turns out took his own form of revenge by trapping some soldiers into an infected area but got infected in the process. He didn't care that he got infected as long as he got his revenge. In case you haven't noticed, this game is about revenge, just letting you know. It's probably not that obvious. Ellie finds out that the trespasser is not Tommy but Jesse, who traveled from Seattle to help Ellie. To make it thanks to Jesse's elite burnout driving skills, and they return to the theater, after which we get a flashback to 2 years ago where we see Ellie and Tommy shooting infected, and if you read the journal, you'll learn about Ellie's first girlfriend, Kat, while in Jackson. The girl not only was close to Ellie, but gave her her tattoo, which confirms that she also didn't tell Joel that she was a lesbian, fearing how he would respond. Eventually, Tommy decides to give Joel and Ellie some alone time while they locate new guitar strings. It's also here that we learn that Tommy and Joel thought it would be best that no one knows about Ellie's immunity and makes her wear a mask whenever they deal with spores. But it's also clear that tension with Joel has been festering for some time within Ellie. After locating a couple that ran from Jackson, Ellie begins to doubt Joel after making several connections, such as him dragging her out of the hospital while she was knocked out and never finding another person who is immune despite Joel saying that the Fireflies found many, or letting her talk to them. This just causes Ellie to become more curious as Joel reaffirms that there was no cure.
Do you believe that?
Is now really the time for this?
We traveled across the entire country to bring me to the Fireflies. I had so many questions for them. Why did you pull me out of there while I was still unconscious?
Because I let them run their tests. And when I saw that they were useless, I got us out of there.
How do you know they were useless? Maybe if you just would have given them more time, they could have figured something out.
There was no cure.
Back in the present, Ellie learns of another location of one of Abby's friends, Nora. During this section, you can learn more about the WLF, including how some former members who ran from the organization, showing they killed deserters and they refused to head back. It's also here that Ellie encounters the Seraphites via an arrow to the arm.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
This cult has been foreshadowed for some time. They mostly use silent weapons and bows and communicate using whistles. It also becomes known that they're the ones who killed the people at the TV station, and they do this type of ritualistic slicing ceremony where they hang their victims and then slice open their stomachs as a way to free them, which is incredibly disturbing. Ellie makes it to the hospital and finds Nora, who mocks Ellie about Joel's death. Ellie chases her and gets infected while evading capture from the WLF soldiers. Ellie tracks Nora down, who reveals that she was once a Firefly and promises to end her life quickly if she reveals where Abby is, but Nora at first refuses until Ellie violently beats Nora with a pipe until she talks.
Last chance.
I'm not giving up, my friend.
Ellie is slowly unraveling and learns of the aquarium and believes that's where Tommy is heading. Jesse also finds out that Dina is pregnant due to her condition and that they need to take her back or she might not survive. We get another flashback. 2 years ago, Ellie returns to the hospital to find an old recorder from one of the remaining Fireflies who stayed, revealing everything Joel said was a lie, and he killed the only doctor who could have created a vaccine. Ellie confronts Joel and forces him to talk, threatening to leave forever if he lies. In one of the most emotional scenes in the entire game, Joel comes clean, and you can see Ellie completely broken, and she just loses all respect for Joel. You can just see the pain in their eyes as they just decide to go their separate ways emotionally.
So I stopped them.
Oh my God. Don't you fucking touch me! I'll go back. But we're done.
Back in the present, Jesse and Ellie travel together, but then eventually also go their separate ways when they overhear a sniper has been killing WLF soldiers. Jesse believes it's Tommy and heads to the highway where the sniper is, but Ellie wants to go to the aquarium, confirming this wasn't about finding Tommy, but for her getting her revenge. Ellie steals a boat, and after fighting to infected WLF and Seraphites, reaches the aquarium. Her boat is overturned and Ellie swims the remaining way as the storm rages. Ellie gets inside and kills the guard dog. She then finds Mel and Owen who are arguing about something. Ellie tries to make a deal to spare them in exchange for Abby, but they refuse. Ellie attempts to use Joel and Tommy's interrogation technique poorly, and Owen attempts to grab Ellie's gun, forcing her to fatally shoot him. Mel tries to kill Ellie but is overpowered and killed. Owen, with his last breath, tries to tell Ellie Mel was pregnant before dying. Tommy and Jesse enter and get Ellie out of the building as she collapses due to the sheer emotional regret of killing Mel.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Hey. It's all right. Come on, let's go. Let's go. It's all right.
The team regroups at the theater and agrees to leave for Dina's sake. Tommy heads into the lobby to show off a gold necklace he plans to give his wife as a bribe, but is ambushed by Abby, who kills Jesse after he and Ellie rush the lobby. Ellie tries to negotiate for Tommy's life before the screen cuts to black. It's here where we take control of Abby, Joel's killer. 4 years ago, when she was Ellie's age, it's here where we get to see that Abby was a Firefly and her father was the doctor responsible for the surgery planned on Ellie, which ended with Joel killing him to save Ellie, which is why Abby killed Joel. This scene is clearly a way to manipulate the player into feeling Abby's plight, but since this scene plays out after Abby kills Joel, not only does it not work, it completely fails. We then dart to Seattle on day 1, and we see what happened to Abby during the same time we were with Ellie. We see that the WLF is similar to Jackson, with a thriving community all working together within the stadium. Personally, I hated controlling Abby, because she was the one who killed Joel. Nothing that happens after that moment would ever scrub that feeling away. Anyway, Abby and Manny, you know Manny, the guy who spit on Joel's corpse, yeah, I don't like that guy either, discussed how everyone in the group involved in Joel's murder have been reacting to it differently, with each of them assuming that it's over and what they did happened for all the right reasons. It also shows how stupid these people are, as Abby spent years tracking down Joel, and didn't believe that Joel's family wouldn't do the same. They literally held down his daughter while they forced her to watch the death of her father, and did that while his brother was knocked out. And they were wearing their WLF uniforms. They're not smart people. They are incredibly dumb, or maybe they just did this on purpose, the writing team. The team, along with Alice the dog, who is the only good thing about this entire part of the campaign, head outside on patrol. They're ambushed by Seraphites, but eventually make it to another WLF camp, where we learn from Nora that Owen killed one of their own. It's also here that we meet the leader of the operation, Isaac. Inside Isaac's torture chamber, we get a detailed and graphic image of how far this guy's willing to go to win this war against the Seraphites. We also see how unfeeling and brutal Abby truly is. She's dedicated to the WLF to the point that she wants to hurt people who are literally shown broken and treated like animals ready for slaughter. We get to see that Isaac is planning a large-scale assault to win the war against the Seraphites. They've tried peace, but apparently both sides end up screwing each other up, and the plan is to end the entire war in a siege. Using an upcoming storm, the WLF will travel to the Seraphites' island to kill them all. Abby, along with several others, will lead the charge, but it's here that Abby asks about Owen, to which Isaac labeled him a traitor and AWOL because Danny told him himself that he killed him. But Isaac is willing to give him a chance if they find him. Unfortunately, Abby doesn't want to wait and decides against Isaac's orders to find Owen and get the truth, and this is where we get another flashback. 2 years after the death of her father and the collapse of the Fireflies, Abby and the rest of her friends joined the WLF. Her and Owen were dating and discovered the aquarium where Owen lives now. Abby heads through dozens of Seraphites and is captured. We get another flashback where we see that Abby and Owen have broke up and now he's with Mel. During this flashback, Abby convinces Owen to head to Jackson to find Tommy and locate Joel. Everyone, including Isaac, allows this, but Owen seems to have moved on but decides to help regardless. Ironically, Abby is saved by 2 Seraphites after almost being hanged and sliced. In one of the most scariest moments in the entire game, the 3 of them are hunted by infected while running through the dark forest, all while protecting one of them, Yara, whose arm was broken by one of Abby's captors. And we also see Lev, her younger brother, trying to save them both using her bow and arrow skills. Abby does wonder why Yara and Lev are being targeted by their own people, to which Lev answers honestly it's because he shaved his head, and Abby thinks it's a joke. Abby gets to Owen where she learns Owen did kill Daniel, but out of self-defense after he refused to kill a Seraphite. The reason being that the person was an old man and Owen saw the look in his eye that he was fighting for a very long time and ready to die. Owen just couldn't do it anymore. He couldn't keep killing and decided he was done. Daniel was fed up and when Owen refused to kill the Seraphite, a fight ensued and the gun accidentally went off when they were pulling on each other. So it was an accident. Owen decides that he wants to leave Seattle to chase a rumored Firefly base in Santa Barbara because he's done with the fighting. He just doesn't want to kill for land that he has no right to, nor does he want to fight people in an endless war for a pointless objective, which I respect Owen for. He has been killing for a long time, and I guess this was just the kill that broke the camel's back. He saw that he could become that old man that almost died, and he doesn't want to be that anymore. The two argue, with Owen calling out Abby's hypocrisy. Abby says she grew up and moved on from her past despite literally tracking down Joel and killing him for what he did in her past while forcing Ellie to watch. The two turn on each other with anger and it ends up with them having sex. During the night, Abby has a dream that the Seraphites that saved her will die and decides to head out to check on their well-being, while also refusing to talk to Owen about what happened last night, showing that Owen believes that they may still have feelings for one another past friendship, but Abby just doesn't want to hear it. Abby reaches the Seraphites and finds out that Yara's arm has become infected. It's turned bright red, and although she doesn't know what's wrong, she carries her to Owen and Mel, who tell her that it's compartment syndrome, and the arm needs to be removed or she'll die. The issue is that Mel needs very specific supplies to perform the surgery, and they don't have it. Yara will only live for a few hours, and Abby simply does not have the time to head to the hospital and come back. The second option is that they slice her arm off and use fire to cauterize the wound, but she'll likely die from infection or the blood loss. Luckily, Lev has a third option to show Abby a secret path that will allow her to get to the hospital and back within hours. If you did all the optional dialogue in the opening chapter for Abby, the NPCs will make note that the Seraphites have been somehow evading their gaze and getting behind their lines, and this is how they've been doing it. Abby agrees and the two head off. Lev takes Abby to the Sky Bridge. It's during this journey that Lev and Abby connect, similar to the way that Joel connected with Ellie. I mean, it's so obvious what the developers are doing here, but again, she killed Joel, so it's extremely hard for anyone to connect to the person who killed the main protagonist. The story is just, the way it's set up is such a mess. Anyway, Lev assures Abby that shaving her head was the reason she was marked for death by the Seraphites, to Abby's shock. The irony of the Sky Bridge is that it uses old world technology in order for the Seraphites to avoid the WLF, despite the fact that their entire society is based on not using old world technology because they consider it a sin, and that the infection is the world's way of cleansing humanity of said sin. It's completely backwards because they also use guns, which are old world technology, but according to Lev, there are some exceptions, which, it's just hypocrisy. But it shows that both the WLF and the Seraphites are completely flawed, and they are just fighting for the same reason that everyone fights: resources, in this case Seattle, which is plentiful wood resources. And it turns out the falling crane on top of the buildings is what the Seraphites have been using as a bridge to avoid the WLF, hence the Sky Bridge. Abby, being afraid of heights, powers through but falls into a pool into another building when she slips on some guano. As luck would have it, the building is a breeding ground for infected. Abby and Lev slowly move their way down this giant skyscraper, with Abby having to locate a mask for Lev, and she even gets a flamethrower, which is pretty awesome. The two make it to the hospital, but only Abby can enter because they'll kill Lev on sight. Abby attempts to get supplies, but Isaac has put an arrest warrant out for her going AWOL, and is to be transported for questioning. Abby is freed by Nora, who also tells her that the only way to obtain the required supplies is to head into the quarantine section of the hospital. Abby agrees and is stretched for time, but she'll regret doing this. After she heads into the quarantine section to learn about the people down here were left behind, with patients literally strapped to stretchers and infected medical staff locked into their rooms. I mean, this place is really screwed up. You'll find documents from patient and medical staff who had no idea what was going on. This was during outbreak day. Patients were writing down they had no idea what was going on as their minds slowly degraded and they turned into infected, and medical staff completely having mental breakdowns, unable to tell their patients that they've been infected with something deadly, and they just had to power through it. It is truly sad. After turning on the power, Abby indirectly frees a monster, who conveniently also opens the way to the parking lot. Thanks, buddy. With the supplies that Abby needs inside an ambulance. After getting the supplies in true boss fight fashion, the monster shows itself. A combination of every infected into one massive tank called the Rat King, which I conveniently have a video about its creation and analysis. Abby runs for her life until she has nowhere to run and fights. The thing has every ability of every infected, and the creature all acts independently from one another, with a clicker-like part of it separating from the creature once enough damage is dealt. Once killed, Abby hunts down the monster who's separated from the king and kills it. It's really a pretty good boss fight. Abby heads back to Owen, and while Mel does the surgery, Owen and Abby have a heart-to-heart, realizing they still have feelings for each other. The surgery is a success and Yara lives. The next morning, Mel reveals that Owen asked her to leave with him and wants Abby to come with, but Mel doesn't.
These kids, get out of their lives before you screw them over too.
Revealing that she will only leave with Owen if Abby agrees not to come, but she of course did not tell Owen this. She knows that she slept with Owen and now resents Abby. While this is all happening, Yara and Lev are arguing about their mom to come with them. In the Seraphite society, the parents can't suffer for the crimes of the children, and Lev is worried about her, but Yara knows that their mother is well and knows she'll put her faith over her own children. It's something that Lev doesn't fully grasp because in their faith, parental relationships are placed very high, but Yara makes it very clear that their mother will kill Lev if she returns. Yara shares that Lev wanted to be a soldier, but she was given the position of becoming a child bride for an elder's wife. She then shaved her head, which labeled her an apostate, to be killed on sight, and Yara rebelled to save Lev. I mean, this is such a great society. Not only are they transphobic, they also promote pedophilia, because why not? Honestly, why would you ever want to be part of these people? It's completely sick. But to be honest, Lev was born into the society and it's all she knows, so I can understand from that perspective. The two search for a present for Lev since she is extremely aggravated that she can't save her mother, only to see the child using a boat to head to their island to save their mother. You know, a completely idiotic response from someone who should be more aware of their mother's actions, putting her sister in danger because logically she's gonna go and try and save her because she literally gave up everything to save her brother. But it's just, I don't know why this kid didn't think these things through, but you know, it's a dragged out revenge plot, so you have to go and save her while she leaves Owen and Mel to finish the boat. But in reality, Abby just doesn't want to be around both of them because of their whole issue right now. The two head to the marina but separate for the time being because they hear gunshots. Remember that sniper that Jesse and Ellie overheard some WLF soldiers talking about? Well, we now get to see how that turned out. Abby, along with Manny, slowly creep their way forward into one of the best moments of the game. This sniper boss fight is incredibly awesome and tense. With near perfect accuracy, it requires Abby and Manny to move through cover using whatever means possible. You'll use portions of the concrete, you'll dive underwater. It's incredible how profound this fight is. Even without a shot, the sniper will lure infected towards Abby's position using the sound of the bullet making contact to surfaces. Eventually, Abby and Manny corner the sniper for Manny to get shot in the head. Good riddance, asshole. In fact, let's see that multiple times. Abby is of course shocked and charges the sniper, which is revealed to be Tommy. I mean, it was pretty obvious from the start. You chased him and you saw the character model. But Yara somehow appears out of nowhere right before Tommy's about to finish off Abby. I mean, we saw that Yara was struggling to get over one steel fence, and somehow she was able to get all the way to this location, avoiding the infected and somehow climbing through all those multiple obstacles. I mean, this woman recently just had massive surgery, yet she's moving around like there's nothing. It's really bizarre. Abby realizes that the trespassers who have been killing the WLF were Joel's people, and instead of warning them or, you know, her own friends that Joel's people are coming after them, she decides, I'm just gonna head to the Seraphites Island and save Lev, you know, the person I just met for a combination of about a day instead of my lifelong friends. Abby is such a great person. Abby heads to the Seraphites Island with Yara and fight their way through the scars, seeing also that Isaac has begun his invasion. Yara and Abby find Lev crying in the corner, shocking. I mean, obviously their mother was not happy with Lev's choices and attempted to kill her, and accidentally Lev shoved her, causing her to hit her head on the table, killing their mother. To be honest, it is pretty heartbreaking, but Yara tried to explain this to her. But to be honest, Yara does handle it in a very profound way. She doesn't blame Lev for anything that happened and said that she did not do anything wrong. She is a really good sister. Unable to return the way they came for some reason because the game says there's fighting back there. I honestly don't understand. Lev, Yara, and Abby decide to cross into town and decide to head to Haven for a boat. On their way, they're ambushed by the WLF, and it happens to be Isaac's party. Yara is fatally wounded, and Lev is in mortal danger. Isaac demands Abby move so he can kill Lev, and in one final moment, Yara saves Lev's life again, killing Isaac before being shot to death. With nothing left, Abby is now an enemy of the WLF, and Lev has no family or the Seraphites. The two decide to work together to get off the island and realize they only have each other now. Not my words, Abby's words. In fact, here they are.
Lev, we need to move. She's gone. Oh my god, she's gone. Lev, come on. Those were your fucking people.
You're my people.
Listen to me. We're gonna have to fight to get out of this, okay? And then I need you to show us to those boats. We don't let anybody stop us. Yeah? Okay. Okay. Follow me.
So, Owen and Mel, I guess they mean nothing to Abby now. I mean, she did come to an island to help someone she just met instead of warning them about the trespassers of the guy they killed is coming after them. But, whatever. The two fight their way through the island as Isaac's people lay siege to the Seraphites, essentially killing them off. After escaping, Abby heads to the aquarium to find Owen and Mel murdered. Lev finds Ellie's map, conveniently, and she heads to the theater in breakneck speed. I mean, she literally just teleports there somehow, despite the game showing that it takes days to get from the aquarium to any other location. Returning to the present day, Abby and Lev have tracked down Ellie's hideout. I mean, they left all the lights on, for God's sakes. So much for remaining hidden. That's like 101. Don't turn all the lights on.
Does that make any sense? No.
Abby and Lev find a way inside, and if you listen to the radio, you can hear that Isaac's death has led to a domino effect. The WLF is collapsing, and those on the island are dying and losing contact. Abby confronts and takes Tommy hostage, returning to the moment where we left off. Tommy attempts to wrestle the gun from Abby, but fails because of Lev and gives the chance for Ellie to escape. But somehow, Abby fails to kill Tommy. I mean, she shoots him at point blank range, but somehow it's not a fatal shot, but she was able to kill Jesse in one shot. Again, doesn't really make sense. I guess it's just chalked it up to luck. The next fight is an incredible struggle between Abby and Ellie in this really intense boss fight. Abby doesn't have any weapons whatsoever since she lost them on the island, and Ellie is fully decked out with every weapon and tactic she's had throughout the game. But somehow, Abby is able to come out on top. I mean, they really downplayed how talented and skilled Ellie is during this fight. She is completely decked out with weapons and equipment, but still Abby comes out on top with just bottles and her fist. Plus, we have to play as her as we beat down one of the most beloved characters in The Last of Us, second to Joel. It's just incredibly heartbreaking. Unless you're like me and just allowed Ellie to kill Abby over and over again because it was cathartic, and I really wish the game ended like this. The intense struggle ends up with Abby on top. Dina attempts to save Ellie, but in the most bizarre way possible. She just comes out and starts slicing mindlessly. Where is her gun? Why didn't she shoot? Why didn't she stab Abby in the side? Dina eventually is overpowered by Abby and nearly beaten to death. Ellie begs Abby not to kill Dina because she's pregnant, but Abby doesn't care, but stops because of Lev. Abby tells Ellie to leave Seattle, showing that Abby, unlike Ellie, after killing Mel, would have shown no remorse for killing Dina. To be honest, I do get it. She did kill Mel, but it was clear that Abby just didn't care. I mean, do I have to remind everyone? Tommy showed up and she saw him and she decided to go to the island. Did she expect him not to have other people with him? Even if he died during that struggle, he was still not alone. It was obvious because Manny said that there are multiple trespassers. So honestly, this was all Abby's fault. If she helped the people she cared about first, they would have never died. But, Abby being Abby. Several months later, Ellie and Dina are living on a farm outside Jackson, like they dreamed of, and raising Jesse's son, which they named JJ, which I assume is short for Jesse Jr. Despite this, Ellie has severe PTSD, and it only gets worse, with Ellie having frequent mental breakdowns of Joel's death. Tommy arrives later, having survived being shot somehow, but loses some motor controls, walking with a limp. Him and Maria have separated, and Tommy learns new information about Abby, who is seen in Santa Barbara, California. Both Ellie and Dina want to live in peace, but Tommy wants revenge for his brother's death. As expected, Dina just doesn't want anything to do with this anymore and forbids Tommy from ever returning to bring this up. That night, Ellie remembers when she and Dina danced and kissed for the first time. To be honest, the scene is very romantic. In fact, it reminds me a lot of when Riley and Ellie dance for the first time and they showcase their feelings for one another. It also shows what a good person Jesse was before he died. Despite him and Dina recently breaking up, he wants Ellie and Dina to be happy and gives them his blessing, saying that they're perfect for each other. It's during this dance that Joel defended Ellie and Dina's relationship after Seth called them a dyke, and it shows that Ellie still resents Joel years later after coming clean about the Fireflies. Ellie decides that she has to kill Abby to make the pain stop, to Dina's disapproval, begging her to stay, and she doesn't want to lose her like she lost Jesse or Joel, but Ellie just can't and decides to leave.
We've got a family. She doesn't get to be more important than that. No. I'm not gonna do this again.
That's up to you.
We return to Abby and Lev, who are chasing Owen's lead to a new Firefly settlement. Abby is completely unaffected by the loss of her lifelong friends by her own actions and looks happy. Again, I can't understand why people hate this person. The two discover a hidden base and make contact, but this win is short-lived. A gang called the Rattlers brutally beat the two and capture them. Ellie makes it to Santa Barbara and finds Owen's boat. Abby has been using Owen's information to locate the Fireflies. If you read Ellie's journal, you can learn that she traveled by foot to California, almost starving to death and surviving by luck alone. She makes note that Las Vegas is actually just a breeding ground for infected. It's completely lost, and that the only reason she survived is because travelers came by and 2 children even died in close proximity of her. When you're traveling through Santa Barbara, you'll find more notes of the residents who were frightened of the Rattlers. They completely had the area under lockdown, and anyone captured were turned into slaves for them, with the people having only 1 or 2 options: either join the organization or become slaves, with one daughter actually joining them to save her family. It's pretty fucked up. Ellie makes it and is eventually captured in one of the Rattlers' traps and wounded heavily. The 2 of the same guys who captured Abby and Lev find Ellie, but she fortunately tricks them because they're idiots, and she learns of Abby's location. While inside the Rattler's hideout, you learn that they've been purposely infecting people or using the surrounding infected as guard dogs. So you can sneak yourself in, or in my case...
Double kill. Triple kill. Overkill. Kill-tacular. Kill-trocity. Kilimanjaro. Kill-catastrophe. Kill-pocalypse.
Ellie makes it to the prison and frees all the prisoners, who tell of Abby's location. She tried to escape and was taken to somewhere called the Pillars. Ellie heads outside while the prisoners lay siege to the Rattler's hideout, killing them all. The Pillars is where escapees are hanged on poles and starved to death. Ellie finds Abby barely hanging on and Lev near death. Ellie frees both of them and follows them to a couple of boats, which are conveniently on the shore. I mean, who doesn't find 2 exact boats right outside the hideout of a deadly gang? At first, Ellie actually considers just leaving, but decides to follow through killing Abby. Abby refuses to fight, having given up on everything except ensuring Lev's safety, and Ellie threatens Lev's life, forcing Abby to fight. In a brutal fight between the two, Abby is completely malnourished and close to death while Ellie is wounded from the fight with the Rattlers. The two just keep punching and fighting with one another, with Ellie slicing away and punching Abby with her face becoming increasingly more swollen. It's very bloody and dark. It's one of the most painful fights in the game. Despite me hating Abby all throughout this game, this fight, it's just not pleasant. Ellie does come out on top this time and almost kills Abby, but can't bring herself to do it. Ellie knows that even if she kills Abby, the pain will never go away. Ellie decides to just let Abby go, and she leaves with Lev, as Ellie, completely broken, forever scarred by everything that Abby has done to her.
Go. Just take him.
Ellie returns home to find that Dina has moved out, taking JJ and most of their things inside the home. Ellie travels upstairs to her personal study where Joel's stuff is also present. Ellie takes Joel's guitar and starts playing, but realizes she can't do it anymore since Abby bit off her fingers, losing her last ability to connect to Joel before flashing back. It's here where we finally see Ellie and Joel's final moments together. The night before Abby murdered Joel, Ellie came to visit him at his house. The two engaged in small talk, him talking about trading a lot for a bag of coffee, before telling Joel to stop treating her like a child and she can fight her own battles. It's also here that Ellie comes out to Joel of being a lesbian, and Joel really just doesn't care. He just wants her to be happy, and he's glad that she found someone. After which, Ellie expresses her frustration that Joel robbed her the chance to make her life matter. Joel understands why Ellie is angry, but states that if he would do it all over again, he would do it exactly the same way. Ellie understands why Joel did it, and decides to try and forgive him, and that movie night they were going to have was going to be the start of them rebuilding their relationship, and it was all taken away because of Abby. Ellie leaves Joel's guitar and wanders into the mountains away from Jackson. Now let's talk about this ending. It's clear that Ellie doesn't want to be held by her past anymore, not her immunity, the Fireflies, and not of Joel's death. Instead, Ellie has decided to leave Jackson and her family behind, deciding to take a fresh new start on life, free from the pain caused by Abby, who leaves the story with little to no consequences. Unlike Ellie, who is likely haunted by Joel's death for life, Abby, on the other hand, is completely okay knowing she caused the death of her friends, Joel, and feels nothing for the pain and suffering she has caused. At least, she literally shows nothing, no remorse whatsoever. She's completely free of consequences and shows that she has little regard for the lives she destroyed. It's direct opposite of what Abby did. Throughout her flashbacks, Abby was consumed by her past and eventually acted on it. Despite constantly trying to convey that her past didn't define her, it did. She showed the same level of zeal for the WLF as with the Fireflies, murdered Joel and expected no consequences, and betrayed everyone and everything for her own personal goals. Ellie in the end proves she's stronger than Abby in every way by attempting to find peace despite all the pain, but Abby remains the same person from the start, completely free of consequences and showing little regard for the lives she destroyed. So let's move on to my predictions for The Last of Us Part 3. First off, I strongly believe that the Fireflies will be a strong foundation for the next game, seeing that they are being revived, but it's unclear what their purpose will be. Would they try and restart humanity again? Look for Ellie? Will they try and find a new person who's immune? And what about a doctor who can perform the surgery? There are a lot of questions of which this new Firefly organization can center around. While a lot of us, including myself, would love to see Ellie return, it's clear that it'll probably be Abby's story that follows in the next game. She's the one who's going to be locating the Fireflies, and plus they already have that dynamic relationship between Abby and Lev, so it's unlikely that Ellie's story will continue past this. They can leave her behind, or she can be part of a separate story as she tries and rediscover herself. And this is an extremely, and I mean really extreme case, but considering how Naughty Dog really just went Game of Thrones on this series, they could literally have Ellie commit suicide. I know that's something we never want to hear, or something I don't even want to see happen, but Ellie has lost so much in her life. She's lost her mother, Joel, Riley, Dina, Jesse Jr. She has lost so much, and there's just so much that someone can endure before they finally break. Maybe Ellie will be fine and she'll just establish roots in a new community under a new identity, deciding to just make things work for her. She can even become a new leader for a brand new faction. You never know. But for now, it seems that Ellie's story is finished, and they will be continuing with Abby, considering that Abby was the one who was searching for the Fireflies. But I really don't want to play as Abby, but it seems that's the direction that The Last of Us is going towards. So what are your opinions on what could happen next in The Last of Us Part 3? Also vote on what game I should focus on next. I'm thinking about doing Control finally. I've been putting off for months of an ending explained for Control. At the same time, I know a lot of people are going to say you hate this game because you don't give it a perfect score. That is not true. I actually think this game is worth playing, and you need to play it in order to experience all these feelings firsthand. However, it will not be what you hope for. It will cause you to feel a lot of pain, and how you experience this will be completely up to your own interpretation. These are just my interpretations, and if you disagree with me, you are free to do so. Please voice your opinion in the comments below. But I feel like I have to make that clear that I did not hate this game. It is a good game. It's just not a masterpiece as everyone is saying it is. Well, most media outlets and very extreme fans, the same extreme fans who are also stating that this game is trash, which it's not. Anyway, leave a like, a comment, and I'll see you all next time. Stay awesome, everyone.